residential technology, lighting specialist, residential technology.
Welcome to Residential Tech Talks. I'm Jeremy Glowacki, Executive Editor of Residential Tech Today. On this week's podcast, Richard Charschan joins us from Long Island, New York, where he is president of AcousticSmart Home Theater Interiors. Richard founded AcousticSmart more than 25 years ago and has worked on some of the world's finest custom theaters and developed his own home theater seating and star ceiling products as well. But just as interesting as that, he also helped create a new coffee table book called Home Theater-ology that will debut next month at CEDIA Expo in Denver. With insights from experts like Joel Silver on video calibration and Tony Grimani on acoustics, Home Theaterology provides valuable knowledge to inspire designers and architects to embrace the resurgent trend of home theaters. Richard Charschan, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining us today.
Well said, Jeremy.
Well, I appreciate it. I've been excited to learn about this project. It kind of came out of nowhere for me, but I know you've been working on it with a lot of help from some sponsors, which we'll mention here in a minute.
Yeah.
A lot of contributors, some great, forwards written by like Barry Sonnenfeld, the director, cinematographer, your client, who's famous for being the drummer of the E Street Band and just a cool guy, Max Weinberg. A lot of interesting contributions here. Well, I want to get into all of that, but
sure.
First, how are things in Long Island? Like I should say on Long Island because I used to live in New York and I know that's how you're supposed to say it. How are things today there?
Yeah, it's actually nice and sunny today. We had some rain during the week, but it's actually going to be a nice week and a beautiful day. So we're pretty lucky.
It's that time of year when, it's starting to, it's still summer, but kids are kind of going back to school across the country. And
we're like in surfer territory. So everybody, hangs out and surfs in the morning and then they go to work at about 10 or 11.
Oh, wow. Nice. Yeah. That's a different world from.
It's very low key here.
Very nice. Well, I want to talk about, your background a bit, your career. And I touched on it. It's over 25 years now doing this stuff. And I noticed you use the term private theater, which is, kind of a Sam Cavett term that I have enjoyed hearing over the years because it really does sort of make a statement about what the level of theaters you're doing are, the quality of them. And how did you get interested in this space? Like what was your background before you got into the industry?
Yeah, so it's very interesting. So I was a musician for many years and I had a publishing deal with Screen Gems, and I was like writing music for other artists, and then the whole industry changed because of Nirvana and all that. So
oh, really?
I wasn't writing that kind of music, and so I worked in recording studios my whole life and played various instruments, and I even played with the CE Pro band at CEDIA every year. And we get together with people from all over the country, and it's really a blast. That's really the only thing I do now musically, but we have various CDs out. We even, our last project that we did with my band, we had it mixed and mastered by Eddie Kramer, who worked with the Beatles and Zeppelin. And so that was just incredible. But when the whole music industry changed, I had to come up with something. I wanted to start a family. I just got married and I was kind of at a loss. So I ended up working for my father, who was a manufacturer's rep, believe it or not. And he always did building product specialties. And one of the products he had was acoustic treatment, which I knew from working in recording studios. And it's kind of a crazy story. So what happened was I wasn't really thrilled working for my father, although I loved working with him and learning from him. And he was like my sensei, and probably the best experience of my life was getting to spend time with my dad in that way. But what happened was I wasn't happy doing what I was doing, and I just didn't have my heart in it. I wanted to do something that dealt with sound or something like that. So I knew somebody who's in the AV world, and he was doing these theaters, and he would show them to me, and I'd be like, this is great, but haven't you ever heard of acoustic treatment?
Mm.
It makes such a big difference. And he looked at me like I had three heads, like, what do you mean? What's this acoustic stuff? My room sound fine. And I'm like, but it would really make a big difference. And then what happened was, I think it was Video Interiors was the first magazine that came out over 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a theater that had acoustic treatment. And some client of his saw that and said, you know what? Can you get these guys to do the theater? And he was like, well, I know somebody right here in Long Island who can do it. So I thought, this would be a great opportunity for me to show him what I was talking about. And the actual project went so well that the guy literally thanked me for an hour. Like, we were there listening. I think it was a James Taylor concert that we were listening to. And I was even blown away because I was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable, because it feels like you're there at the concert, and we both had, we're checking our hands for goosebumps,
Right.
And I didn't really think much about it. And then about 2 weeks later, I got my final invoice came back with $1,000 bonus and with a long letter, thanking me.
Mm.
So I showed it to my father, because we're not used to that, because working in commercial, construction, and, you just got to get it over with and done.
Right.
Whereas this guy actually appreciated what I did, and was almost like, somebody liked what I did, and I did something good. And I was proud of the fact that I made somebody happy. And my father said, maybe more people would want this. I'm like, I have no idea. So I found out about CEDIA, and I started calling up all these AV dealers, and they all turned me down. They all hung up the phone on me. They're like, I'm fine. We don't need any of this acoustic stuff. What is this stuff all about? Doesn't really mean anything. And then to get people to remember me, because in those days, you can actually call somebody.
Right.
Now try calling somebody starting a business. Everybody thinks you're trying to sell insurance. It's almost impossible. It's really,
Right.
It would be really hard to do what I did. So I created these music CDs back then when you could do it because of Napster, and every year was a different theme. I did one CD was bands that sound like the Beatles. One was an acoustic CD, and I put a lot of time into it. And I used to manufacture them myself and spent all night, sending them out to, AV dealers and saying, hey, look, if you ever need acoustic treatment, call me. And I figured if they didn't want to call me back, at least if they liked the music, and if something came up, they would see it and maybe call me. So sure enough, another magazine article came out about acoustic treatment, and I got another call, like, are you the note who called me 6 months ago? I'm out of a job. And that's kind of how the whole thing started, and I thought maybe I'd do one or two a year, because back then, I don't know if you go back that far, but the Ferrugia line doublers were so expensive, and the Runcos were, I don't know what they were back then. The 3-gun type of projectors were crazy expensive. So very few people were doing these theaters. And then as time went on, we got into manufacturing seating and all these other things, because we need to find a solution, because the rooms were small and the people were reclining into one another. They weren't doing sightline studies. So the second row literally couldn't see half of the screen, because people were just buying seats and not really doing the math behind it. And we didn't know anything either. We were all learning. I mean, it was so new,
Right.
And then it just grew, and it was really, all my products came from, everything that we created came from problem solving, an interior designer saying, this is cool, but can you do this, And that's how we developed the seat that we won an award for at CES. It was the first seat that was like a lifestyle seat that looked like a European club chair that transforms into a cinema lounger. So when you go into the room, it has a low back, it looks cool. I mean, now everybody's doing it, but we were the first, because we were going and meeting with architects and interior designers, and they hated theater seating, did not want it. And they wanted to put clients that were very tall. Some of them were celebrities and basketball players, and they would have zero head support. So the idea was to give them a look that would give them that low back look when you come in. And then also it helps acoustically a great deal. But then when they want to watch a movie, that it converts and the headrest pops up and the footrest comes out and becomes a comfortable high back chair,
Yeah.
But, but that's been my journey. And then with the star ceilings, and all the other stuff that we do, that came because, what was it? The Rainforest Cafe was really big at that time.
Right.
And we had a couple of clients that wanted to have them in the theaters. and we didn't know how to do it. So we called up Disney and we had them come in and show us what to do. And they actually cut into the engineered beams in the ceiling. And if we didn't get there in time, the entire ceiling could have came down.
Oh, jeez.
So we had to, luckily the contractor was cool about it and he realized it wasn't our fault. And we reinforced the ceiling, but we got a very quick lesson on how to do this. And then as the years went on, we were actually trained by the Rainforest Cafe people who did those ceilings, and we became friendly with them and helped them out. But then, everything sort of morphs. I always tell my kids, you just can't get to see the wizard. You have to meet all the characters along the way first, and then you finally get there.
Uh-huh.
And my journey was such a long journey. Theater design people like us, people who do the work that we do, we're the stepchild of the industry. It takes a long time to earn the respect of the dealers because they've been through so much, because a lot of people were figuring stuff out in the early days and they lost faith. And I had to climb up that ladder and I had to prove that we were actually good people to work with and we would make their life easier and we would, be a true partner for them. And that's been my whole story, the whole way, just trying to make the best theaters that we can and trying to be a true partner for the AV dealer, not just trying to sell them stuff, and walk them through the entire project, help them manage it, because these rooms they're difficult. They're really hard and it's not easy. Some of my rooms take 6 months. Some rooms take 2 years or, maybe a year and a half, and in different parts of the country or different states, it's interesting, but you have a different type of dynamic that you need to know how to work with. And something that would take 6 months in New York takes a year and a half, let's say someplace else. And it's the same job, but it's the people, the way they work. And you got to sort of be able to be a chameleon to the way they work.
Right.
Same way in Europe, same way in Colorado. It's different everywhere.
So you always work with the dealer. You don't ever do any of the specification of the gear.
No, if there's something that's not correct, we let the dealer know. Like if the throw distance of the projector is not right, or if the screen is not the right size, or if it's too small, or if it's the wrong aspect ratio, if it's affecting the sight line and they're specking out a giant 16:9, but the sight line's bad, we'll recommend going to a 2.40 screen. So raise the screen higher and it's wider but not as tall.
Right.
Things of that nature. We'll actually tell clients to do less seats, which seems out of the ordinary because it's less profitable for us, but we always want to do what's best for the room. It's not what's best for our pocket.
Right.
And in the end, every room that we do is a showroom. And this book came out because Theo Calamarakis is a good friend of mine, and he's actually the guy who developed the term private theaters. Actually, I think that was the name of his first book.
Okay.
So he's sort of semi-retired and sort of carrying the torch, so to speak, and trying to make sure that home theater stays around. And it's very interesting. There's a disconnect between the AV dealer and the interior designers and architects around the country, where they're not really knowledgeable on how to build these rooms. And every job that we go on to, that we're a part of, we have to start from scratch and we have to educate, the right way to do these rooms. So the book was to get rid of the disconnect and still make it fun without preaching, so that architects, interior designers can learn a little bit of something, so that they have some knowledge and understand some of the basics, why you even need acoustic treatment, how do you find a video, a good integrator, what is CEDIA? A lot of them don't even know what CEDIA is. I wanted them to know what CEDIA is, how you find an integrator through CEDIA. That's in the book. The difference between, having a big TV that's 100-inch in a room that's, that has 3 rows of seats, which a lot of interior designers and architects seem to be doing. And it's really, really doing a disservice to the client, because you're not going to get a theater experience.
Right.
No way, no how. And also the difference between a dedicated room and having a big screen and a couch, and there's no reason to talk a client out of doing a theater and saying it's just do a couch at a big TV just because you're scared of it or because you're not educated and, you're not sure how to go about it. I'm trying to make it So this is a fun way to get a little bit of knowledge and also to get into the architects, interior designers around the country in a really fun and cool way, where hopefully this will inspire them to want to do more theaters and help out all our dealers around the country. This is not an ego thing. It's really a way to sort of help to support the whole market.
Yeah, it sounds like a good mission. I'm curious to learn more about it for sure. Before we move on, definitely want to mention who helped support the project there with your sponsors. You've got a list here of Kaleidoscape, Barker Residential, Screen Research, CEDIA, and CEDIA Expo / Emerald expositions, and Storm Audio, Meridian, JBL Synthesis, D-Tools, TPI, 360 Power Quality, and Mad VR, among others. So great support there, it sounds like. And what was the initial sort of starting point for this? Were you kind of trying to do the messaging or collect cool projects to showcase? What were you trying to do 4 years ago when you're really getting started?
So what happened was I went to CEDIA and I noticed it was getting smaller. The home theater section was getting smaller. The demo rooms became 4 instead of, all the demo rooms that they used to have. And then we would travel around the country, and I noticed some architects, interior designers were talking people out of doing theaters and telling them to put big TVs and couches. I have a room that we just literally lost, and the client was so excited, that the husband was excited to do the theater. And then we get a call that they're not doing it. They're going to do a TV room. They're going to do, just like what I said before, 3 rows of seats with a 100-inch TV, because the interior designer talked the client out of it, talked the wife out of it, and talked the husband out of it. And the husband called us back. I'm so sorry. I really want to do this. But it's like, why are we having this? This shouldn't be happening at this date, this day and age. So COVID happened, and you really couldn't go and meet architects, interior designers anymore. That, you had to go through Zoom meetings and all that stuff. And even when you did a continuing education course, I found that you weren't really meeting with the key people. So how are we going to get this message, is what I was saying to myself, especially in other parts of the country. So a lot of my dealers know who the right architects, interior designers are. So I'm like, how can we get this message to the architects, interior designers, and do it in a cool, fun way? And I remember what Theo did with his book. He had 2 of them that came out. And every time his books came out, the architects, interior designers, and many of the AV dealers especially, they had it right in their showroom. And it created business. It created a lot of excitement. And it really lifted the home theater market. And so I talked to him and some other people about it, and I said, we should really do something like this again, because it's been 20 years since Great Escapes, like 20 years. And we need something, and right now we're starting to get an uplift in home theater. Home theater is getting big. There's a big underground movement now of theater guys and YouTubers who are really into theater, and it's passionate, but it's not hitting the architects and the interior designers who do the high-end homes. So the idea was, the money that I make from the book, it's going to be going basically just to give these books out to the architects, interior designers, so that they can have it on the shelf. So when somebody has a theater, they can look at it, because I made it so there's lots of gorgeous pictures to look at. And also the theaters are more in the realm of what a normal person can build. Theo's jobs were over $1 million and up. These are more for what you see in a normal home of a multi-millionaire, not billionaire, Yeah. So it's more accessible. And I thought that the timing was right for something like this. So that's really the basis. So this is a book, just like with Theo's book, we want it to live on for the next 5 to 10 years. And we're going to be, I'm financing this all myself, with the help of CEDIA and all the people who are involved, and everybody who buys a book, the money is going towards, this whole mission that we're doing. This is going to be going on for the next 5 or 6 years, just constantly, sending it to architects, interior designers, just giving them books. And then hopefully they'll look at it. They'll be like, oh, this home theaters are back. Like even though they weren't away, but people will say, it'll wake them up a little bit. We should be paying attention to home theater. Why aren't we doing enough home theaters? And then hopefully they'll look into it, read it, see there's a lot of cool people involved, and get some knowledge. And then when a home theater comes up, they'll realize not to put acoustic wallpaper on the walls. That's a no-no. But I can't tell you how many architects and interior designers are specifying acoustic wallpaper in movie theaters and saying that's your acoustic treatment. So that's kind of what I'm trying to get away from.
Okay. I'm not sure if I'm embarrassed or proud that I don't know that there's such a thing as acoustic wallpaper, but that's a thing, huh?
It is a thing. Or we have jobs where they want to put wood in the entire theater, and they want to actually cover up the speakers with this wood. And I'm like, it doesn't work like that. You have to have soft surfaces with the hard surfaces. And there's a science to this. And when the room is done right, I have clients that I'm friends with. I haven't talked to them for 20 years, and they'll call me up and they'll be like, you know what? I have everything that I could possibly want. But my theater is my favorite thing in the house. And that makes me feel good. It makes me feel like we did something right, and that's the message. Every room is a showroom. I want AV dealers to start taking it seriously and saying, calibrate your video, don't just finish the job, calibrate the audio, calibrate the video. I have pages from some of the top people in the industry talking about the importance of this and some tips, of the trade. I even go as far as, when I do demos for people in my showroom, I look for things that they haven't seen before, something that's going to really excite them or something that'll be a wow. So I don't pick anything that's ordinary that they'd see anyplace else. So I put some of those even in the book for dealers to help them so that they can show something that will give people the goosebumps that I felt the first time I did my first job.
Yeah. So you're in addition to those kind of tips and testimonials from clients who love their theaters, you're showcasing 15 projects. So you must have really worked like hard to make sure that those were obviously, like you said, more accessible, but also something really special about them, and obviously great photos, right?
We didn't want to have stuff that's typical, with the paneled walls and that we've seen over and over again. I mean, we have tons of those. We have tons of rooms that are just very generic too, very simple and clean, like a screening room. We can do that, all day long. But we also get calls from people thinking that we're a theme theater company, and we're really not. I mean, we've done some pretty wild, outrageous theme theaters, but we get maybe one every 2 years or something like that. And it's not something that we look for. And, but so we do have a Lord of the Rings themed theater in there, and it's way over the top. And most architects and interior designers are going to be like, what is that? That's crazy. But it's what the client wanted, and we had to figure that out. And then I have a lot of stuff that's just very streamlined, very simple, very clean, but very sophisticated, where you're playing with lights and LED lighting and shading, which I think is so important right now. And you have Ketra, and Apex Technology has a new lighting that they're working with that actually reacts with the video, which is super cool, which we're looking to get more involved in with Apex and that product, because it's on the cutting edge and it's really interesting. So we're always looking to do something that pushes the envelope. So we try to pick stuff that will give you a little bit of a wow, but it's not going to be so over the top that you're going to be, that's just nuts. Like, why would somebody do that? Because you also want to make it, interior design friendly. So there's a little bit of both. So we have, I think out of the whole 15, there's only 2 or 3 theme rooms, because we thought that they were fun and worthy. One of them is a James Bond room that we did, where the room was only 10 feet wide. So we had to make that work with like a hidden shade that has Pierce Brosnan and the famous image of the blood coming down. When the James Bond movie starts, and when that shade goes up, we have linked up to a kaleidoscope to what's called a script. So as it's going up, you see Pierce Brosnan walking onto the screen at the same time.
Mm.
We actually have the video of that, and it's super cool and it's super fun. So that's how we watches a movie every time. The lights dim, the shade goes up with Pierce Brosnan, and then you see James Bond walking onto the screen. And then in the back, he has another motorized shade where we have a printed image of all the criminals of James Bond. And then when that goes up, that's triggered to, something that plays the James Bond theme.
Okay.
So it's fun, and the room is very small, but it's how we were able to take a very small space and make it into something interesting. And then we talk about all the some of the troubles that we had and things we had to figure out, because every single room has problem solving. Every room is like a Mission Impossible episode. Every room you have deadlines and crazy things that you would never think of, and you got to figure out the solutions. And that's the big part of our business, is the problem solving. And is this gonna, how do we make this happen? Well, this is what the client wants. You have to figure it out, but it's never been done before. So, we have to put our heads together, and we have a really good team of guys who can come up with stuff like that. And it's, that's part of the fun, but also some of the stressful part of what we do. But it's, so we have that one, and then we did this crazy Egyptian room, which is really cool also, which we won an award for at CEDIA, where all of the stone walls, because you can't have actual stone walls, is printed on breathable fabric. And it took us like 3 or 4 months to get it right, but it is so realistic that you literally, until you go up to it and you touch it, you don't realize it's not real. And it's kind of unbelievable. And then there's a cool door that we did that was custom molded. But then all the other rooms that we have there are pretty normal, just really cool, just eye popping, and a lot of them were shot by some of the best people in the industry, like Philip Bennis and Salvatore Dovi. These guys are masters shooting theaters, which is not easy to do because the rooms are small. You have to use a very wide angle lens. You have to light them properly, and the whole idea is to get the feel of being in the room. A lot of times you see a picture of a cinema, a private theater, and it's too bright.
Yeah.
The star ceiling has no character. The seating just doesn't look, warm and inviting. So I think these guys are some of the best around, that I've worked with a lot of them out there. This is 25, 30 years working with these guys.
Yeah, for sure. Imagine a TV that not only delivers stunning 4K Ultra HD visuals, but also doubles as a piece of art. Introducing the latest innovation by Skyworth, the Skyworth Canvas Art TV. It blends seamlessly into the living space, transforming the home into a gallery of breathtaking visuals. With its novel all-in-one design, say goodbye to the need for an external connection box, saving time and frustration when planning and installing. Even with all the components inside, it measures just over an inch from the wall and mounts perfectly flush against the wall. It boasts a 4K QLED display showcasing vibrant colors in an art mode with more than 150 free pieces of art. The Skyworth Canvas Art TV is more than just a TV, it's a masterpiece. Want to see it in action? Visit the Skyworth booth at CEDIA Expo booth C1115. Don't miss out on this opportunity to witness the perfect fusion of technology and art and other CI solutions. Talk about how you came about getting Barry Sonnenfeld to do the forward for you. He's the keynote speaker at CEDIA. I'm kind of guessing maybe you had something to do with that, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. So he's actually, we were talking with him. He was working on a theater I think it was in Vancouver or something like that. And but he ended up not doing anything because he might be moving. And my editor, Michael Gaughan, has done a lot of work with him. And when I started talking to him and we started talking to Michael about it, I'm like, it would be so cool if we had Barry involved in this, because he actually appreciates home theater. You would think a movie director would be like, it's better to be at the movies, and you want to go to the cinema, but he'll actually tell you firsthand that, that he's been to a bunch of theaters that were showing Men in Black, And he said the experience was terrible. He had to actually call the chain and said, why is there no bass here? Why am I'm not feeling anything here. Like, did you turn everything off? And they turned off the subwoofers because they don't want to bother the people, in the next cinema. And the truth of the matter is he knows that in a good home theater done right and calibrated right, you can get a much better experience in the home. Mm-hmm. And he gets that, and he understands that. So he wanted to share that, and that's why I thought that was very relevant for the book, because he's not there to endorse my work. He's there to basically talk about home theater in general and why, sure. And why it is so critical. And if you really want to enjoy anything that he's directed or from your favorite movie director, in the home is the ultimate way to really experience it, to have that immersive, because or else you're really a spectator. I mean, if you're watching a movie in a living room, you're like a guest, watching the movie, and then you're having all these noises in the background and people talking, and sometimes you can't hear the sound, and you have to crank up the volume and lower the volume. Chasing it is what they call. And when you're in a theater, I mean, in my theater, in my showroom, which is a very difficult room because it's almost square, which is terrible for for doing acoustics. And I actually got the room tuned pretty well, and we've had people that are pretty much deaf in one ear. And I had one client that was crying in my theater because it was the first time she was able to watch something without having to read lips, because she can hear everything so perfectly. So when you experience stuff like that, it's really amazing. Or like I'll help out friends like Max Weinberg, when he's just trying to watch the news when he gets back off tour and in his living room, and he's having a hard time hearing the news. We acoustically treated that area for him, and all of a sudden he was able to listen to it at low levels, and and everybody was happy, and he was able to actually understand what they were saying, and just doing little things like that. That's the rewarding part of my job,
Where all have you gone to do these projects? Sounds like around the world. What's one of the cooler places you've been to do a project, and how often are you just kind of in your home area there in the New York area?
We do a lot in New York. Obviously, that's our home base, and we have 2 showrooms here. We went to Mystique, and we did a project there that was pretty cool. The south of France, we did this is before COVID. Things were different back then. Mm-hmm. That was an amazing opportunity, an amazing job, a lot of fun. One of my greatest experiences was we had a day off. So we were in the south of France. We're like, let's drive to Portofino for the day. And we drove to Portofino and came back. We drove, it's like, to me, it's like driving to New Jersey. It's like no big deal. Mm-hmm. I was like, that's so cool that you can go from one country to another. And that kind of blew my mind. And then one of my clients was able to get us in to see Sting playing at a Coliseum that was as old as the one in Rome, with the wooden, seats and all that. Mm-hmm. And I was just, I was there watching this concert and just like, this is the greatest, job in the world, Right. And it's the one job where, people thank you for what you do at the end if you do a good job, and they became, a lot of them, they become like family. I still talk to a lot of my clients. It gets harder as the company grew. It definitely got harder, but I always try to stay in touch with as many of them as I can.
Well, so obviously the goal here is folks on the dealer side. Manufacturers obviously are going to support this as well, but to buy, a stack of these books and just apply them to their architects, their designers, to have in their own showrooms and design studios, to make sure that they're always thinking in terms of a private cinema as opposed to just a TV room. So
absolutely.
And so the book launch event will be at CEDIA Expo, but there's also a pre-order available here, and we can we can share that link in our show notes. But
Right.
and you're going to be at CEDIA.
Price too. So the book is normally $90, and it'll be 90 after CEDIA. But right now it's $67.50. It's been reduced. For friends and people who are interested and they want to get involved before the actual big event at CEDIA. And then at CEDIA also, you're going to be able to get them at the same discount. But we're not going to be shipping any of them until we get to CEDIA, because I want people to go to CEDIA,
Mm-hmm.
I want people to support the organization, and I want people to to really get involved, because there's going to be a lot of stuff surrounding the book at the show, and there's going to be some amazing demos. Trinoff has an amazing demo set up. Storm Audio has an amazing demo set up. People, I want people to see what's happening, because what we can do now in home cinema is just truly amazing. And, I want everybody to get their asses down to CEDIA. There's no excuse.
No, absolutely. I'm with you there. It's an important place to be. You can only do so much virtually. It's great that we can connect like that these days, but the experience of these really great developments from those companies that you just mentioned, eventually they may get around to seeing you in person in your local area, but you can get an advanced, look, listen, feel for the latest, greatest at CEDIA Expo that you're gonna have to wait around for a while. Otherwise,
this is going to be a fun CEDIA, and having Barry Sonnenfeld as the keynote. I can't remember the last time when they had somebody of that, of that kind of personality that can really talk from that point of view, and he has such a sense of humor. That I think people are going to, I don't think I've ever seen any of the keynotes at CEDIA, but I would go to see this one, because I just know the way he is, and he's really cool to listen to,
Well, when Harry met Sally, he was cinematographer, or I guess cinematographer for that movie, and that's my favorite. Rom-com all time.
I showed that to my niece. She's never seen it, and we watched the movie, and she was more of an Adam Sandler fan. When she saw that, she was like, she really liked it, because it's so clever, and the writing is so good, and the acting and the characters. You can watch that again and again and again.
Oh, I absolutely have. It's all timer for me, and I don't even think I realized that he was involved in that until the keynote.
Yeah, and also with the Coen brothers too. He worked on Blood Simple and a whole bunch of others. That was how he got his wings.
Wow, yeah, that's quite a span of stuff, and of course the Men in Black movie is a legendary one that directing, and so really great to have someone on the artistic side, the content side of things for what is such an important part of our industry. So I agree with you. That's going to be a great one.
Yeah.
So attendees then can go to your book launch event, which will happen on September 5th from 12:30 to 2. And you'll be doing some book signings with special guests, sounds like, to be announced later.
Right.
And that's at booth 2537 for the folks.
Just the CEDIA booth, yeah.
CEDIA's booth, right. Okay, that's easy enough. And then also you've got your own AcousticSmart booth at 4220, where you can where you're also selling the book.
So we have actually three booths. So we have one booth that's right by the registration. All right.
Okay.
And then we have one booth that's on the show floor, which is 4220. And then we're going to have pop-up booths, almost like we're going on tour, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be hitting up some of the sponsors, and we're going to be popping. We're going to have a schedule of that pretty soon, where we're going to be doing like hour and a half book signings. And the whole idea is that you can buy the book now online, but pick it up at CEDIA. If you can't make the CEDIA, of course, we're going to ship it to you.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea was to come to CEDIA, come and meet us. We're good people. We'll sign the book, get everybody excited, and then we're also going to have, because some people don't want to wait online for the book and get it book signed. And I understand, we're going to sign advanced copies. We're also going to have people on the show floor with cards, and the card's going to have a QR code. All the sponsors are going to have QR codes and a little stand. So all you have to do is really click on the code and get your book and pick it up at any of the booths. And all you have to do is show proof of purchase, and you'll be able to get the book. So it's not like you have to wait around. Everybody's short for time. Some people go to CEDIA for 1 day. Some people go for all 3 days. So there is no excuse, because there's so many different ways to get the book. And all you have to do is sign the QR code, show the receipt, and you can pick it up either by the registration or at 4220, booth 4220, and get your book. We're going to have a lot of books, but
That's
once
awesome.
they're gone, they're gone. So we have, it's a first edition, and it's a limited edition. So once we sell out, we sell out, but we are bringing about 1,000 books. It's a lot of books.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, Richard, I really appreciate your time. It's great getting to know you, and what a great idea for this. It's so supportive of the industry and what we need to be doing to have the quality that the industry has been known for, the fun, level quality that we get. So I think folks will really relate to that and hopefully support it. And we'll look forward to seeing you at CEDIA Expo for sure. Thanks again for your time.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, this is a passion project, and nobody needs what we do. And we consider it an honor to be able to do this. And I'm not the only theater designer out there. There's lots of others out there who share the same passion. I just want to help not just the AV dealers, but help these other theater designers and architects and interior designers, and make it so that home theater stays strong for the next 10 years. Because if you ask any AV dealer on the planet, what do they love the most? What's their favorite thing to do out of all the things that they do for their clients? Their answer will be home theater every time. So why not, go out there and support it? Yeah. All right.
Well, sounds great. Thank you, Richard. Really appreciate it.
For the opportunity. I do appreciate it.
Absolutely. Richard Charschan is president of AcousticSmart Home Theater Interiors. You can learn more about his company at acousticsmart.com. And if you're headed to CEDIA Expo next month, try to get your hands on his book, Home Theaterology, and maybe even get him to sign a copy while you're there. And if you can't make it, visit hometheaterology.net to get a copy. And that wraps up today's show, which was produced by Residential Tech Today, IPW, and Pretty Easy Podcasts. If you're new to Residential Tech Talks, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you watched or listened to this episode. Also, check out all the latest residential tech news at our magazine's website, restechtoday.com, where you can also subscribe to the print or digital magazine and to our Tuesday and Thursday email newsletters. Until next time, please stay safe, stay inspired, and let us know if you have a great story to tell.
Residential Tech Talks, autonomous lighting specialist, residential tech.
Home automation, smart device, home or smart house.